sideshows, freak shows, and 10-in-1s. These displays of the strange, the weird, the unusual, and unconventionally beautiful have been part of American culture since the days of Barnum. For over a century, these shows have lined the boardwalks of Coney Island and toured across the country, turning real people into walking legends. In this video, you'll see some of the most shocking sideshow freaks that actually existed, not in stories, but in flesh, blood, and bones. Number 15. The Elephant Man. I am not an animal. I am a human being. I am a man. Though spoken by actor John Hurt in David Lynch's film, those words reflected the truth of Joseph Merrick's life. He was born in 1862 in a Leicester slum, and Joseph Carey Merrick developed severe swelling around his mouth at age 2. By 5, strange growths distorted his face, and at 8, a fall caused permanent hip damage. After losing his brother and mother young age, he was left in the hands of an abusive father. By the age of 15, he fled to a workhouse that was more like a prison than a refuge. Then, he joined a freak show to survive. After traveling through Britain and Europe, he was robbed and abandoned in Belgium. Speech impaired and physically worn down, he returned to London and was taken in by surgeon Frederick Trevis. Merrick spent his final years in a hospital, away from cruelty. In 1890, he died at 27, likely from asphyxiation while trying to sleep lying down. Number 14. Alfred Langan. Alfred Langan, known as the Eye Smoker, had one of the strangest acts ever seen on a circus stage. Born around 1885 in Canada, Langan discovered he could exhale air and smoke through his tear ducts, a phenomenon few believed until they saw it. He performed stunts like smoking a pipe or cigarette through his eye socket while simultaneously blowing smoke out of his mouth. Audiences were stunned when he inflated balloons and even played a recorder using this strange talent. On June 26, 1909, he married his wife, with whom he shared a quiet life outside the spotlight. Though often imitated, no one ever matched Alfred's bizarre ability. His act became a staple in vaudeville and circus shows, making him one of the most memorable performers of his era. Langan continued performing into old age before passing away in February 1974, leaving behind an act that truly redefined the very limits of human anatomy. Number 13. Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy. In the 19th century, Fedor Jeffu faced a weird destiny caused by his rare genetic condition, hypertrichosis, which covered his entire face and body with a fine layer of hair. Exploited by a circus promoter, Fedor became known as Jojo, the Dog-Faced Boy. During that era, science had no explanation or words for his condition, and many believed it reflected animal ancestry. His dad, Adrian Jeffu, also lived with hypertrichosis and drew crowds across Moscow. When they partnered as father and son, their act quickly gained fame. Adrian adopted Fedor, guiding him through shows that eventually drew the attention of entrepreneur Phineas Barnum. In 1883, the duo began touring Europe, and after Adrian's death, Fedor joined Barnum's Greatest Show on Earth. Audiences were told he'd been found in a Russian forest, living wild, though in reality he was polite, well-read, and fluent in several languages. After nearly 20 years of performing, Jojo died of pneumonia in Greece in 1903, ending a tragic yet legendary career. Number 12. Rudy Santos. Rudy from the Philippines became known around the world as Octoman. His condition came from a parasitic twin, leaving him with 4 arms, 3 legs, extra nipples, and the partial remains of another head fused to his chest. Through the 1970s and 80s, he toured freak shows, astonishing crowds with his surreal anatomy. But by the late 80s, exhausted from years of exploitation, he stepped out of the spotlight. In 2008, doctors offered to remove the remnants of his twin, but Rudy refused. Poverty played a role, yet his reason went deeper. After decades, those extra limbs weren't deformities. They were part of his identity. Despite using crutches and facing constant hardship, he lived longer than anyone else with his condition. In 2023, Rudy died of a stroke at age 70, survived by his great-niece, Emma Leftwich. His life wasn't defined by pity or shock. It was defined by endurance, resilience, and a quiet defiance that never broke. Number 11. Sarah Howold. Sarah has built an international career in circus and physical theater, blending aerial rope, hoop, and character work into performances that challenge perception. A Paralympic swimmer for Australia at the 2000 Sydney Games, she was born with Hallermann-Streiff syndrome, legally blind and standing just 144 centimeters tall. Yet Sarah redefines limitation, not through defiance, but ownership. She proudly calls herself a natural-born freak, reclaiming the term with power and history. Her acts balance grace, athleticism, and vulnerability, drawing the audience into movement that speaks louder than spectacle. Off-stage, she advocates for inclusion and accessibility, working in arts leadership across New South Wales. Every gesture, every pause, is deliberate. For Sarah, difference isn't something to overcome. It's the foundation of her creative identity. She doesn't perform to hide her condition. She performs to show what expression looks like when it's stripped of apology. She is proof that art and authenticity are inseparable. Number 10. Josephine Joseph. Josephine, sometimes listed under the name Jefferson Wheeler III, gained fame for an act that confused and fascinated audiences alike. Billed as the half-man, half-woman, Josephine's body appeared split directly down the middle, one side masculine, the other feminine. Dressed to accentuate the illusion, she performed in sideshows and circuses throughout the 1930s, often drawing huge crowds. Though much of her early life remains undocumented, she became best known for her appearance in Todd Browning's 1932 cult film Freaks, where she portrayed a character true to her act. Some claimed Josephine was intersex. Others believed it was a skillful illusion crafted through makeup, costume, and presentation. Nothing else. But whatever the actual truth, her performance blurred gender lines long before society even had language for it. Josephine Joseph remains one of the most mysterious figures of circus history, a performer whose act challenged perception and fascinated generations long after her final show. Number 9. Carrie Acres. Carrie Acres stood just over 3 feet tall and weighed more than 300 pounds. Her body followed no rule book, and neither did she. Introduced to P.T. Barnum's lineup in the late 1880s as a fat dwarf lady, Carrie refused to play the part expected of her. She wasn't quiet or compliant. She was fierce, loud, and unwilling to bow. For that, they branded her cruelly as the warthog. Not because of her looks, but because she dared to push back. Most sideshow acts lived under forced silence. Carrie shattered it. Her time in the spotlight was short, but her presence burned bright. She didn't plead for pity or perform for sympathy. She demanded to be seen and heard. In an industry built on obedience, she stood defiant. Her career may have ended quickly, but her defiance lived on. Carrie Acres proved that in a world obsessed with submission, noise could be its own form of power. What do you think about him? Let us know. Number 8. The Alligator-Skinned Man. Emmett Bjano, famously known as the Alligator-Skinned Man, was born in Florida with ichthyosis, which is a very rare genetic disorder that covered his body with thick, scaly skin, except for his hands and face. His unusual appearance made him unforgettable. Joining the sideshow circuit, he met Priscilla, the celebrated monkey girl, while performing for the Lawther organization. Their shared lives in the spotlight sparked a lifelong bond, and they married in 1938. They had a daughter who tragically died of pneumonia and later adopted a son named Tony. Together, they toured as the world's strangest married couple, managing their own show with pride and independence. Emmett, adopted by Johnny Bjano after losing his biological father, lived a life shaped by chosen family and resilience. He passed away on May 14, 1995. Priscilla followed 6 years later. Their 57-year marriage wasn't built on spectacle. It was love that thrived under scrutiny and lasted longer than any circus creep show ever could. Number 7. The Sacred Hairy Family of Burma. In the late 1800s, Barnum's circus introduced America to a family unlike anything it had seen, the Sacred Hairy Family of Burma. Covered in silky fur from head to toe, their appearance came from hypertrichosis, a rare hereditary condition passed down from their ancestor, She Maong, born in 1796 in what is now Laos. At age 5, She Maong was gifted to the king of Ava and raised in the royal court as a jester, later marrying and fathering children who shared his condition. His daughter Mafoon carried on the legacy. When Burma fell into turmoil in 1885, the royal court was destroyed, and the family fled into the jungle before finding refuge in England. A British naturalist described them as intelligent, kind, and graceful. In 1888, they joined Barnum's American tour, where crowds saw them as both royalty and wonder. Afterward, they vanished from record, leaving behind not a show, but a legend whispered through history. Number 6. William Dirks. William was born in rural northern Alabama with features few could forget. A deep cleft split the middle of his face, and a rare condition called frontonasal dysplasia gave him the illusion of two noses. Raised in isolation without schooling or friends, he eventually left home as a teenager and found his place in the sideshow circuit. Performing at New York's Hubert's Museum, he painted a third eye between his brows, creating a haunting character that drew massive crowds. By the 1960s, he was earning $100 a week, an impressive sum for the era. Yet behind the unsettling exterior was a man of sharp humor and calm strength. William even found love, marrying Mildred, known as the alligator-skinned woman. Together, they built a quiet, genuine life beyond the stage. His story wasn't one of deformity, but of creation and self-ownership. William Dirks didn't chase sympathy. He claimed identity in a world that rarely saw past the surface. Number 5. Joe the Leopard Boy. Born a Bishel in 1869, Joe was an African-American performer who lived with leukoderma, a condition that left pale patches across his skin, creating a spotted pattern like a leopard's. P.T. Barnum gave him his stage name, costume, and public identity. He wasn't the only Leopard Boy, but he was among the earliest and most memorable. Touring dime museums through the 1890s, Joe performed in gritty venues where the crowd came for spectacle, not stories. Few ever knew his real name. They just stared. The act became his entire life. In 1909, he reportedly fell through an open trapdoor backstage and died at 40. His unusual skin made him unforgettable, yet his true self remained unseen. His name, rewritten for profit, became a myth sold for tickets. He lived in the blurred space between curiosity and cruelty. Joe didn't just perform in captivity, he existed there. His story wasn't fame, it was survival under the spotlight. Number 4. Lillian LeFrance. Lillian didn't just ride the edge, she lived on it. Born Agnes Mykek in 1894, the second of 9 daughters in a strict Kansas family, she was restless from the start. By her 20s, she had renamed herself, joined a carnival, and became a daredevil known for defying death. In the 1930s, she ruled the Wall of Death, racing motorcycles and stunt cars around vertical tracks at full speed, often with no hands, grinning through cracked ribs and bruises. Dressed in aviator goggles and a skull-emblazoned jersey, she called herself the girl who flirts with death. She never married, saying she'd seen enough struggle in her mother's life. Freedom was her only devotion. Lillian's courage broke gender lines long before it was fashionable. Her story was later revived in Kim Wood's 1998 documentary, Advice for Adventurous Girls. Lillian LeFrance wasn't just a performer. She was proof that some lives burn brighter by choice. She was a real legend. Number 3. Serpentina, the Serpent Girl. No one on this holy earth knew where Serpentina came from, or if her real name. Perhaps it was Irene Farrell, or maybe not, or something else. But by the early 1900s, it no longer mattered. She was the girl with no bones, a claim exaggerated but unforgettable. Serpentina bent her body into impossible shapes, arching backward, folding sideways, twisting like liquid. Rumors spread that she couldn't walk and had to be carried to the stage. She began performing in small joints like Oakland's Globe Cafe, later joining the Marine Hippodrome as a Sea Tiny. Ripley's Believe It or Not picked her up in the 1940s, turning her into a nationwide attraction. The posters lied, the photos exaggerated, but Serpentina made people believe. She didn't talk on stage, she moved, and the crowd fell silent. Maybe she was just a gifted contortionist, or maybe she was something rarer, a body transformed into illusion. When the curtain dropped, no one remembered the actual truth, only the image she left twisting in their minds. Number 2. Angus McKascal. Well, now this one is an actual legend. Angus McKascal, remembered as the Nova Scotia Giant, remains one of history's strongest men. Born in Scotland in 1825 and raised on Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Angus grew normally until his mid-teens, when his body changed dramatically. By 20, he stood 7 feet 9 inches tall, weighed 425 pounds, and possessed enormous hands and feet. Unlike most giants, Angus had no disease. His size was entirely natural. His strength bordered on myth. He could lift anchors weighing over a ton and carry barrels under each arm with ease. In 1849, P.T. Barnum paired him with Tom Thumb for a tallest and smallest act, where crowds watched Tom vanish inside Angus's coat. Though he never sought fame, his quiet strength made him legendary. He died in 1863 at just 38, but his reputation outlived him. Angus McKascal wasn't remembered for freakishness or fame. He was remembered for strength with dignity and a humanity that dwarfed even his massive size. Number 1. The Three-Legged Man. Francesco Lentini, born in 1889 in Sicily, wasn't just a curiosity. He was extraordinary. He was born with 3 legs, 4 feet, 16 toes, and 2 functioning sets of male organs. Each leg differed in length, giving him a unique balance. At age 8, he immigrated to America and instantly became a sensation. Audiences loved his humor and grace. Lentini could kick a football with his 3rd leg and often joked about buying 2 pairs of shoes, gifting the extra one to a one-legged friend. He performed for over 40 years with major circuses like Barnum and Bailey and Coney Island shows. He later married Teresa Murray and had 4 children. As society's perception of human oddities changed, Lentini defended performing as honest work. By 1950, Sideshows faded, but he remained proud of his craft. Known affectionately as the King, Francesco Lentini continued touring until his death in 1966, remembered for charm, wit, and dignity far beyond his physical difference. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you very soon.